Hello, welcome to the Margarita Rise Up with the Margarita show. And I'm Margarita, and welcome. Every week we talk about a topic that helps the leaders of light of the new earth rise up and really own their purpose and take ownership of their power. And so if we haven't met yet, my name's Margarita, and I help new leaders of the new earth activate light and empowerment for the planet and build epic businesses through power activation and mentorship. So today's topic is 5 ways to empower your throat chakra. So it sounds like a super basic topic, but I have heard so many emerging leaders of the new earth really have an issue with this topic. Really meaning like, they really want to speak their truth. They want to speak it authentically. They want to be visible, seen, heard, and all this stuff. But there's some issues there with the throat chakra for whatever reason, right? So I'm going to go into that today to talk about, first of all, what it looks like when you're not in your throat chakra power, to give you some context. Also, how being in your throat chakra power brings you into the next level of your power. And then what it takes to get there, to really be emergent in your throat chakra power. And 5 things that will open you into your throat chakra power. So I'm going to give you those goodies there. And just to give you a little bit of background, and I'm already seeing some folks commenting, hey there, good to see everyone. Someone's saying, wow, I really need this. Yeah, so, you're not alone in this. I'll just say that, right? Because a lot of light workers who are really emerging into their power are having issues with this, right? And especially now when there's a lot of stuff going on in the world, and sometimes they might feel a little weird about speaking into certain things, and like, should I say this, or maybe it's not okay to say that, and so it's all this really getting connected to our authentic self, and really understanding, okay, what is it that I'm being called forward to share, and I'm just going to give you a quick background on my story and my visibility and embodying my throat chakra power, right? And it's not because like, suddenly I was blessed with, being able to have the comfortability to speak in front of audiences and all that. It was not natural. I'll just say that, right? So when, back in the day, like even when I was like super young and, I was really happy with just blending in with the wallpaper. Okay, like just to give you some context, I was super happy to do that, right? Like if you read one of my posts where I described it, I even wore long sleeved shirts during summer because I didn't even want to be seen. Okay, like, I mean, I literally didn't want to be seen by anybody. So just giving you some context here, okay? So then, like then I was starting to grow up, and then I started, writing my independent magazine that's now like, an underground pop culture classic basically now. It's registered with the Library of Congress. I was like doing spoken word. I was like branching out and doing all this stuff. And because of my independent zine, I got invited to universities and colleges, right? And so then I actually started delivering keynotes. I was like in my 20s or something by this time, 20s, 30s, right? And so and I was doing all these keynote speeches. And it's not that it's because I was like, oh yeah, like I'm super awesome. I'm just going to go up here and speak to like hundreds of people. No, I was petrified, right? But I am the type of person that I enjoy challenges. I enjoy just like seeing what I'm capable of, basically. And I like to push my own limits to get there and to explore, my power, basically, right? And so I just gave myself that challenge that, okay, let me just try this. And so I just prepared, and then I started speaking into, delivering keynotes and stuff at colleges. And it was really great. And I thought, oh, awesome, I'm in my throat chakra power now, right? But then in 2016, I believe, that's when I got really connected with my ancient lineage as a Syrian starseed, and a lot of that was due to my twin flame. He and I had been together for a while by that time, and as twin flames do, we activated each other just by being around each other, and so that's when we both started remembering all of our lifetimes together. And one of them was when we were both, not in human form, and I was Lady Light Starbringer, he was Proud Wolf Star, and we were both leaders of peoples who eventually branched out into becoming the native tribes that are here today. Like, I mean, it's like ancient, archaic um, lifetimes that we've had together from the beginning of time, basically, right? So that said, once I remembered that, and he helped me remember, I helped him remember, then it was like full on. Then I was really connected with my starseed power, purpose, and I was just super committed to it. And then, of course, that took on a higher level, because by that time I was already doing acupuncture, I was already a Reiki master teacher. And then I started branching out into being a medicine woman, in which I was initiated in the Mayan Toltec tradition. But then I was being called forward with this starseed awakening to really do my greater work, which is the power activation work, right? The power activation work and the mentorship, and really helping the new earth leaders lead, basically. So that is why I then started like getting really connected to my service, and that's why I'm showing up here all the time, right? So I've had like a live show on social media for like 5 years. In the beginning, I was just doing more of like activations, and then I'm showing up here with all these like tips and all these things to share with the leaders of the new earth. So so my bottom line that I'm trying to share this with you is that it didn't start off that way, right? I didn't start off being like, oh yeah, like I'm awesome, let's talk about stuff, right? Like I was not there. But then as a result of me continuing to show up and choosing to show up and allow myself to be uncomfortable and challenging myself and embracing the challenge, and then later on committing to my purpose and my greater work, then it, like everything else paled in comparison. Like I got haters and whatever, but I'm just like, honestly, it doesn't matter. They don't matter, honestly, right? Because they're not the people I'm meant to connect with and serve. So that's why I'm like super focused with this stuff. It's not because I was born like that. It was because I dedicated and committed myself to that, right? So I just want to give you some context, because I know that when I show up with my posts, like people think, oh yeah, that's just like how she is. No, it took commitment, it took service, and it takes diligence and consistency and practice. And so, I mean, you just practice, right? And how does practice happen? You practice by doing. And when you practice, you actually get more confident. So I'm going to share a little bit more about all of those dynamics and how that works. But first, I'm going to share with you of what it looks like when you're not in your throat chakra power, some of which I already described with my own experience, right? And number one, you shut down within yourself. You shut down in your heart. That's what happens when you're not in your throat chakra power. You're not usually connected with your heart. Because when you are connected with your heart, then at the heart chakra, then it just kind of rises up and emerges into the voice, into the throat, into the tongue, into, speaking your truth, right? So usually that's one pivotal piece there, is that those who are not yet connected with their throat chakra power, usually they're shut down in their heart, right? Sherry's saying, I love how straight up and real you are. Keep sharing. I appreciate that. And I know that I'm seeing some comments here too. And hello from England, says another. Hope there will be a replay. Love your stuff, and my internet connection is dodgy. I hear you. Yes, there will be a replay, meaning that it will be in the Instagram and Facebook video sections. So you can like swipe, like when you get onto my account page, if you swipe, I think twice, then it gives you the video section and you'll find it there afterwards. So glad to see you here. And so the second piece of what it looks like when you're not in your throat chakra power is you're not being heard. You don't feel heard. You're not feeling heard. You're not being heard. And people are not hearing what you have to say, right? So it's just like all this, usually there will be like misconstrued information or, confusion there with what you're sharing and that kind of thing. So that's number two. Number three, you don't speak your truth or express yourself authentically. So that's a huge piece for a lot of light workers, because they're, we're empaths. Most of us are empaths, right? And which means, we pick up on other people's feelings. But when you're an empowered empath, you're connected to that, you're aware of that, and you don't let that stop you, because a lot of times the empaths, we just are like, oh God, I can pick up on this person's like intense energy, or like they're angry with me, or they're disappointed with me, or whatever, right? And then we don't want to go there. But the reality is, when you're an empowered empath, you go there anyway. You go there anyway. You do what you need to do, right? Because it's important. What you got to say is important. It's not just because you're full of yourself or whatever. It's because you know what you are being called to do and share, and then you share it. So it's this piece around being authentic. And so a lot of light workers, they will hold themselves back. They will not do their thing because they're afraid of judgment. They're afraid of what people will say. They're afraid of like their childhood friend or their auntie or their ex will find them and find out that they're this spiritual being, right? And it's like, and if that's you, are you more willing to stop yourself from being in your power because of some people who don't know who you are? Or are you going to transcend that and allow yourself to be seen and heard? Because that's super important. So that was number 3. Number 4, you may copy, and I'm talking more about like when you're being visible. You may copy others with what you're creating, but have no understanding or connection to your own voice. And so I've noticed this too, sometimes, and I do this too. I get inspired by what other people are creating, but I always create and shift it into my own version of, serving my people, what that looks like for me, what that means for me, that kind of thing. So I never full out copy anyone, right? But I know that there are some people out there who do, and that's not the way to do it, right? That's when you are not connected to your own voice. You are not connected to what you get to share. And so that's also another telltale sign when you're not connected with your throat chakra powers, that you're too busy copying other people's stuff and you're not connecting with your own voice. Number 5, if you are not using your throat chakra power, you are likely not serving clients and fulfilling your soul purpose to be of service in the world in a bigger way. So, that's what happens, because if you're not expressing yourself authentically, fully, completely, really leading with service and doing big things in visible, highly visible ways, and speaking your truth in big ways, then you're probably not reaching your people. You're probably not reaching your people, which then means you are not connecting with the clients who you are here to serve. And you're probably going to end up struggling in your business, and so you can see how this is all really connected to everything, right? It's not just about, oh, I want to feel like I'm speaking my truth. It is also, it affects everything. When you're shut down in your throat chakra power, your relationships suffer, romantically, platonically, your business relationships even with your coworkers, if you have a day job kind of thing, or if you have like an office type of environment. And it'll affect your business. It'll affect if you make money or not. And all of this is relevant when you are a leader of the new earth and you are being called forward to step forward and be a leader who has an epic business. That's super important. So Shano Tay is saying, I was just listening to your interview on a podcast on Spotify. Thank you so much. And I'm curious which one that was, because there are a couple that are out there. Well, there are a bunch that are out there. And there's going to be another podcast soon, by the way, that's going to be coming out. Not my own, but like I keep getting invited to these podcasts, right, with wonderful, amazing people. And it's such an honor. And that's also what happens when you are in your throat chakra powers, that you honestly, you just keep doing your thing, putting yourself out there, and people invite you to shit. That is really awesome, and that's a really, really great thing, is to, just naturally be invited. Like I get invited to summits all the time and podcasts, to be interviewed and all these other things. And so that's also kind of like a byproduct of when you keep showing up, you then become seen as an authority in your field and with the work that you're doing. And, you deserve that. You get to be seen in the level of expertise that you share. So here's how being in your throat chakra power brings you to the next level of your power, because it's all connected. If you're not connected to your throat chakra power, you're also probably not connected to your power in general, right? And you really want to be connected with that. So number one, when you're in your throat chakra power, you can communicate what you want. And this is super, super important. You are connected to your voice. You communicate what it is that you want, what it is that you want to have, what it is you want to create. And that's super important because you're always speaking, right? Your heart is speaking to the universe, to God. Your essence is speaking to your community, to your people. It was the Wishela Sananda Alchemy of Ascension one. Yeah, that was actually her summit. Oh, wait a minute. I think I was actually on her podcast too. Yeah, so that's awesome. Wonderful, wonderful. And then number two, you communicate your vision effectively. So, and that's really, really important because when you're a light worker and you know you're here for bigger things and you're here to create the new earth and be part of that construction, right? Because it's already here. It's already here. Then it's super important for you to be able to communicate your vision, not only for yourself, because you want to make sure you're clearing that for yourself, but also when you're sharing so that people can understand where you're coming from, so people can receive your information in the way it was intended. And it's a must, right? Like, because when you communicate effectively your vision, then you can help your people better. Number three, you reach your dream clients so you can help them. And that's super, super important because, sure, there are some light workers there who don't charge for what they do, right? And that's a choice if they want to do that. But then they're not in business, right? They're not an entrepreneur. They just have a very expensive hobby, right? And that's I'm just calling it what it is. Because when you are being called forward to really serve, when you really serve high, you are also, providing services as offerings, and so there's this level of exchange, and so that's super important to embrace and embody when you are a spiritually conscious entrepreneur. That is super important because if you're not doing that, not only are you selling yourself short, but you are selling your work short. You're selling your transformation short, and you deserve better than that. And so, if you still have, and I'm going to say this because I say this often here, right? If you've got some issues around thinking that money's unspiritual or it's unspiritual to have money or to make money or to receive money or any of that stuff, that's all illusion, okay? Because money is just a reflection. It's neutral and, it's abundance. And abundance is God, and you are an emanation, an aspect of God. So it actually comes from you because it comes from God, right? And so, all this to say that it's all part of being in your God self, not only just your energy work and not only the tremendous transformation you provide in the world, but also just everything, right? Everything. Your throat chakra power, how you communicate, how you connect, how you cultivate your heart stuff. All of this is super important, So that's why it's also very important to be in your throat chakra power so you can connect with your ideal dream clients and really serve them. Because if they do not know that you exist, because you're not really showing up in the world and not being visible, let's say on social media, for instance, because we're here meeting on social media, so I'll say that, right? Then you're missing out on an opportunity to be of service. And just as a reminder, I'm keeping it to the T on the topic at hand. I tend to get a lot of random questions about energy, and this is not the place for that, right? So this is a place where I'm going to stay on topic, and today's topic is 5 ways to empower your throat chakra. So I mentioned 1, 2, and 3. Now number 4, when you are in your throat chakra power, is you are confident in speaking your truth. And so a lot of light workers will back away from speaking their truth because they say, well, I'm not confident. How do you think you become confident? You become confident by speaking, by doing it, by starting, right? Confidence comes from experience. Experience comes from doing. Doing comes from taking action. So if you want the confidence, do the action. okay? Rather than, oh no, like I don't, my ex might see me or my auntie might see me and like all this stuff, right? And it's like, I can't tell you how many times one of my aunts like have popped into my lives and and I'm like, oh, hi there, and they don't know what I'm doing, I mean, they probably think that what I'm talking about is just really like out there, but I just keep going. I just keep talking about throat chakra stuff or whatever I'm talking about, right? And I'm just like, she came for it. Hey, Alexia, good to see you here. And someone says, I love your confidence. Thank you. It took practice, okay? I didn't come out of the womb this way. It takes practice, right? So yeah, you look more confident speaking your truth because you've been practicing your ass off, right? And so one way to do that is like if you are on social media and you're a little bit feeling weird about being visible, you can try doing like an IG story. Those things evaporate in like 24 hours. And if you want to, you can delete it right after you post it, and those things, it's a really quick thing you can shoot. And if you just wanted to practice, you can delete it right after you post it, right? Like no one is going to hop in the very second you post it, right? Like no one does. Usually it takes a moment for them to get notified and they're like, oh, like there she is, has a story. Or if you feel like having a lot of guts with it, right? You can keep it up and let it evaporate in 24 hours. And you just get more confident the more you do, okay? So all this experience and the confidence that comes from doing. So you need to actually do it. Alexia shares, practice being in your light will make you confident to stand in it. Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. I love that. Nika is saying, let me go make one right now. You are igniting my purpose. Thank you. Well, I'm just going to say this. You ignite your own purpose. When you actually apply yourself, like I may serve as a facilitator, like in my work, when I work with my private clients, but ultimately as, any healing work, right? Like ultimately it's on you. So if you are not getting the results that you want, that's on you. And when you're getting the results that you want, that's also on you, right? And so that's what an empowered light worker embraces, is that they take 100% responsibility of what they're creating, all the crap and all the awesome stuff, right? And until you embrace all of it and say, yes, I created this crap that I don't like seeing in my life, and I also created this wonderful stuff that I'm embracing and it's lovely, right? You get to embrace all of that. And then if there's something there that you are not enjoying or that is not aligned, then you get to release that and create something different, right? Super important to know. Number 5, when you're in your throat chakra power, how that also brings you to the next level of your power is that you will more quickly reach your goals as a spiritually conscious entrepreneur. And you just will, right? Like when you're connected with your throat chakra power, you're connected with your vision, with your light, with your voice, then you reach your goals as a spiritually conscious entrepreneur that much more quickly. And and the thing is, when you're a spiritually conscious entrepreneur, it's yes, you want to be making money because you get to have a thriving life doing what you love, right? But also a lot of spiritually conscious entrepreneurs, their why goes a lot more deeper than that, right? Yes, you get to embody your purpose, but usually it's also I want more time with my family. I want more freedom to travel and work at the same time. That's usually what I hear from a lot of the spiritually conscious entrepreneurs that I serve in my private clients. That's usually their priority, because some of my clients are moms, and they want to have more time with their kids, and they want to be able to have more freedom to, maybe they want to travel with their family, and they can do that when they have their practices in place. And that's something that I help my private clients with, is not only trusting themselves, embodying their throat chakra power, activating them in their divine power codes. And yes, the strategy, I'm good with all of that. I help them create their offers and yada, yada. But it's really about what it is they want to come away with in their spiritual entrepreneur work. And usually it has something to do with freedom, and usually has something to do with connection with their family, And so that's something you get to have when you're a spiritually conscious entrepreneur. So here's what it takes for you to actually get to open into your throat chakra power in a more powerful way, first of all, it takes willingness. And because if you're not willing, nothing will happen. Number two, be open. Be open to whatever it takes to clear out whatever's going on there in your throat chakra, right? And I say this, and it sounds really simplistic, but you won't believe how many patients I've seen who will come in for like Reiki, but they're not willing to make the changes, right? They want the result, but they're not willing to make the changes. And they're not open to making the changes. Some of them are, and then those are the ones that get results, right? So just really check in with yourself and be really honest with yourself about what's really going on, right? So this is super important. I'm also just checking my Facebook because someone was mentioning some things here. But yes, hi Melinda. And people are mentioning that they love this topic. Absolutely. So yeah, number one is the willingness. Number two, be open to really truly transforming. Because if you don't have those two things, your throat chakra ain't going nowhere. Okay. Number three, it also takes practice. And, because I mean, it's like you don't just suddenly have like, the confidence and, all this effusion of your energy being infused into what you're creating, right? That takes practice. That takes showing up. That takes actually taking the action, creating the experiences for yourself and taking the action, right? So that's really the beginning of what it takes. And what you'll notice, because I will get this often, is some people will say, wow, I can feel your energy or I can feel your power in just like the way you speak. And that's what happens when you're in alignment with yourself, right? When you keep setting things from a place of alignment, from taking action from a place of alignment, people can tell. They may not be able to put it into words, but they can tell and they'll feel that, right? And that's what happens when you're really in your throat chakra power and you're also connected to who you are. So that's super important to know that within yourself. So now that I shared what it looks like when you're not in your throat chakra power, how being in your throat chakra power brings you to the next level of your power, and what it takes to get there, now I'm going to share with you the 5 things that will open you into your throat chakra power. Sherry is asking, might be a silly question, but does singing help for practice? Absolutely. Yes, it does. Because you are opening up into using your vocal cords, using it in a creative way. Absolutely. Sound helps, singing helps. Yeah. Yeah, and someone named Tiara Jai is saying, yes, when people speak with passion, I see an aura around them, it strengthens. Yeah, and that's what happens too. When it just, it's evident when you are connected with your power, when you're connected to who you are and you're activated in your divine power, and also in your throat chakra power, because it all comes from the heart. All of the power comes from the heart. If you're not connected with your heart, that's why I don't work with people who are not connected to their heart. I just don't, because that's like, you can't do anything with that, right? Like they get to do that work to connect with their heart on that level. And then once they're connected with their heart and connected with their purpose, then I will work with that person if they are really committed to stepping up into their power in a big way. So just letting you know about that. But the 5 things that will open you into your throat chakra power is, number 1, being connected to your purpose. Now, this is not something that, I can do for you. This is something that comes from within, and it comes from connecting with your higher self, right? So you need to know your purpose in order to stay on point with your truth when you're speaking it. Because if you're not connected with your purpose, and you're not connected with your heart, anything you say is just going to be like, oh, squirrel, shiny object, sparkly thing over here. It's going to be all over the place, right? And you want to make sure that when you're on point, you are really focused and honed in with your purpose and you're connected with your heart, because like no matter what happens, it will not distract you from what you're here to create in the world, right? I mean, I live in the middle of New York City, like literally in central Manhattan. And there are tons of distraction here, tons. like, I mean, at any given moment, you'll hear construction outside my window, drunk people yelling, because since I'm in the middle of Midtown Manhattan, I'm also surrounded by hotels, right? So you get all the tourists who are like, well, we're in New York City, and like they're getting wasted all over the place, right? All kinds of things going on outside. And I think that's what's helped me really, not just only being in New York, I mean, also the practices and techniques I've really cultivated within myself, but it's helped me to really hone in and focus that no matter what is going on outside, because sometimes I've done lives and there will be people marching and having a protest outside, and so you get to be really connected and focused in your purpose and really tapped in with your heart center, because if you're not, you're just going to be all over the place and no one is going to really understand what you're trying to say. So that's number one, being connected to your purpose. That will start opening you up into your throat chakra power, because then once you are, then everything you share will be coming from the heart, will be coming from that place of like, okay, here's what I get to share with the world, right? And so it's going to be super focused. And when you're super focused with your purpose, you're also magnetic. And that's another piece too, is that all this magnetic stuff that you want to be when you are serving, and especially if you're, doing stuff on social media, that comes, yes, from practice, but it comes from focus. And it comes from being dedicated and committed to what you are here to create, right? Number two, being connected to your ideal client and who that is. So that is another thing that I see a lot of light workers who are not yet really connected with their throat chakra power, is that they talk about all kinds of things. They have a post about their dog. They have a post of like their dinner, when maybe it's not very connected to what their purpose really is, right? And so when you post about a lot of random stuff and it's not consistent, then it becomes confusing. It becomes confusing to your ideal client, and they're just like, what is she talking about? Like she was talking about, being in your power, and then all of a sudden she's talking about her dog. And, it's just like, one thing that you get to do as you start to get into mastery with things, you could actually talk about your dog and talk about your dinner and use it in a way that's connected to your purpose and your ideal client if you do it right, right? But if you just start posting random shit, people will just be confused. And the reality is that a confused person never buys, And so that's something to keep in mind, is that ultimately you want to be connecting with your ideal clients so you can serve them. But if they are confused by you, they're not going to step forward and be like, hey, I want your help, right? Because they're just going to be like, what the hell is she talking about? So that's something to also take notice of, is when you're connected to who your ideal client is and what they're experiencing, then that's something that will really open you up into your throat chakra power. And so it's saying that this was paused due to a poor connection. Hopefully you can hear me. Okay, I'm just going to keep going. And so here's the thing, is that when you are connected to your ideal client, that is when you can start getting really connected with them, and they will feel secure, and they will start to trust that you know what you're talking about because you're getting them, right? So let me know in the comments below if you are able to hear and see me, because I just got the notice a few moments ago about a poor connection. So if you can just like say, yes, I hear you, or hands up, just let me know if you can hear and see me, because I'm noticing that alert is popping up. So I'm seeing some people, yes, I hear you. Thank you. I hear you. Okay, great. Thank you for letting me know. Awesome. So this is the kind of stuff that I actually explore with my private clients, because it is super confusing to know who you're serving. And so this is something that I actually cover with my private clients so that they can really connect to who that is, who they're serving. Because honestly, if you don't know who you're serving, then your messaging is going to be all over the place. It's going to be all over the place, because people are going to be like, what is she talking about? I don't understand. One moment she's talking about this, now she's talking about that. And it's just confusing, right? So when you're honed in with your ideal client, though, then you just got the blinders on, and then everything you post, all your messaging comes from that, right? So that was number 2. Number 3, another thing that will open you into your throat chakra power is practice. And I know I've said this like 10 million times already throughout this broadcast, but practice is so important because a lot of light workers will hold back from speaking their light worker truth because, okay, so someone's saying you get frozen sometimes, but for a very short time. Good. So we are going to keep going. We are going to keep going. And so it's practice, right? Experience and practice, that creates the confidence. That creates the confidence. And then you show up and then you already know how you sound like, and all these other things. So that's really important. So that was number 3. Number 4, you lead with service when you want to really connect with opening up into your throat chakra power. So no matter if you're an introvert, if you're highly sensitive, or if you're camera shy, that's not an excuse to show up or to lead from service and show up. I mean, I told you my story about being an introvert, right? I told you my story about being an introvert and how painful it was for me to be seen by anybody, period. And now I'm actually literally on lives every week, and I have been for like 5 years, right? So, okay. I'm glad you're giving me the feedback. Thanks so much. So when you lead from service and you show up, instead of staying invisible for fear of others' judgments of you, you know you're leading from your heart instead of ego. So that was number 4. Number 5, being willing to do something different. So number 5 is being willing to do something different to get to the new level you want to go. So what I mean by that, and I shared this before, is that when you are wanting like a high level experience, you're like, yeah, I want to like be this amazing light worker and change the world, but you're not willing to do something new. You're not willing to shift your beliefs or your mindset. You want to like stay in like scarcity around money or time, right? That will create a block for you from actually embodying that. So you want to make sure that you are willing and open and committed to whatever it takes, no matter how scary it is, no matter how much it pushes you out of your comfort zone, that you're willing to do that no matter what in order to get to that next level, because that's what it's going to take. Because if you expect to get to the next level of your power, but you're not willing to do anything different, you're not willing to get out of your comfort zone, you only want to be comfortable, and you only want to settle with your entire life, you ain't getting to that new level. You just aren't. That's not how it works. You need to be willing to put in that work and to be willing to do the things that are super uncomfortable, that scare the living daylights out of you, and that really challenge what you think you're made of. Because that's really what it's going to take. You are going to need to be willing to take that leap into the unknown, whether or not you've got a net under you. If you are still waiting for that net to appear before you take the leap, you're going about it the wrong way. That's not how manifestation works. Manifestation works by you actually taking the leap, even if you don't know if there's a net under you, and trusting yourself. That's what it takes. It doesn't come before, and it doesn't come when you are waiting for it. That's not how it works. So those are the 5 things that will start to open you into your throat chakra power. And notice that I didn't talk about, meditate with certain crystals or use these essential oils or, these are the sounds you should connect to, right? Because I mentioned all of that in my chakra healing book, right? I mentioned all of that in my chakra healing book, and that's not something that, there are a lot of places you can even Google that, right? You can even Google throat chakra stones or throat chakra essential oils and all that, or you can like look it up in my book, right? And Vanessa's saying, yes, I learned that one the hard way. Love it. Yeah. So you get to be resourceful. That's what empowered light workers do. They are resourceful rather than saying, oh, whoa, I've never done that before. That's scary. I don't know how to do that. What empowered light workers do instead is that they say, I will figure it out. I'll figure it out. Somehow, even though I'm feeling like I'm challenged, I feel like maybe it's an obstacle. That's not your higher self or your guides or the universe saying that you need to stop, that is a sign that you get to keep going and you get to take action on what it is that you want, and you get to take a stand for yourself. I mean, that's really what all this is about. You get to take a stand for yourself, because when you're really taking a stand for yourself, that's when you are really in your power, and that no matter if you're getting resistance from here or other people are disagreeing with you or whatever else is going on in your life, that you'll figure it out anyway and you'll make it happen. That's what empowered light workers do. And those are the kind of people I work with, right? So let me know in the comments if you've got any questions about this topic, 5 ways to empower your throat chakra. So if it's on the topic of empowering your throat chakra and whatever I've covered in today's live, let me know in the comments below. We have a few minutes for questions. And you always want to make sure you have water. You always want to make sure you got water, because it's just all the water and the hydration really helps with all the integration of these higher frequencies. Okay, so as you guys are typing up any questions pertaining to this topic, right, remember that it's not just like the random like energy questions. Let me know. And as you are sharing that, I'll also invite you, if you are an empowered light worker, meaning that you are connected with your purpose, you are connected with your heart, you already have a spiritually based business, or you're about to enter into one, or you're about to go up level into one, or into the next level of your spiritual business, and you're ready to be activated in your divine power on a next level frequency, because that's what I do, and you're ready for what's next, DM me what your light worker purpose is, if that's you. If that's not you, then you can continue checking out my offerings, my social media, my blog posts, my YouTube. I've got lots of free resources. My chakra healing book, I think that's like maybe under $9 or something now. So that's like something too. Okay. Sherry saying, I'm so grateful already. Thanks so much for sharing. You're welcome, Sherry. And now I'm seeing a question here. How can I find my topic? It seems to be so difficult. So first of all, it's not a topic, right? It's your purpose. And you first must get connected to your purpose. And that's not something that I can help you do. That's something that you do within. And that takes internal inquiry. That takes being still in your field, in your energy and in your heart, and connecting with your higher self. And that's super important to do, because if you're really kind of like, if you're not still in your mind, that's super, super important to do first, is like start cultivating, like whether it's meditation. For me, it's meditation. And for me, it's a non-negotiable. Every single morning, no matter what I'm doing in the day, I will meditate. That's like part of my day. I don't care what's going on for the rest of the day. My meditation happens. So it's just super, super important to be really, really connected to your energy and your frequency, and cultivating it on a daily basis, and cultivating stillness every day, every day. And if you're not still in your mind and you're all up in your head and you're not in your heart, that's where you need to start, is like, you need to get connected with your heart first. Because anytime anyone's like asking me stuff like, oh, well, so what's the topic I should talk about? They're coming from here. They're not talking from the heart, right? So that's the first thing you need to do, is connect with your heart. And you need to connect with your purpose. Because if you're not connected with your purpose, what you're here to create in the world, then whatever you create with social media and in your content is just going to fall flat, because it's going to be all over the place, right? So I hope that helps. It's really about really connecting with your heart, and really cultivating a practice of stillness. And for me, it's meditation. For others, it can be something else. But meditation is a super powerful tool to develop your consciousness. So I'm seeing some other questions here. Okay. And someone's sharing, I just got your book from Amazon, based in UK, and very excited to read it. Awesome. I hope you enjoy it. I hope it serves you. Okay. So anyone with any other questions about Throat Chakra Power about anything I talked about in today's broadcast, specifically about the throat chakra. Najmama says, how do I overcome fear for making that first step? So first of all, that's a very common question and a very common concern, I should say. And you get to lead by service, from service, right? I even did a reel on it a couple days ago. I think it might have been last week, when I said something like, it's not about going viral, with your social media. It's not about how many likes did I get on a post or how many people like me, right? It's not about validation. I don't care about the validation. I validate myself, right? Because you should be validating yourself too. But the point being is that when you're showing up and creating content, it should not be from a place of how many likes can I get, right? It should come from a place of how can I serve in this moment? What is the message my people must hear right now? What is it that the one person who is on the other side, what is it that they need to hear, and show up with that, right? That's from a place of service rather than that place of like, oh, I'm afraid because either I've never done it before, or I'm afraid that, I'm not photogenic, or that I don't sound confident, or I don't know what I'm talking about, or people think I'm full of myself. Like, all of those fears are normal. But if you only are in that energy of, oh, I'm afraid what people will say about me, then you're thinking about yourself. And if you're thinking about yourself, I think that's what people call selfish, right? That's what, I'm not saying that you're selfish, but I'm saying that that's a selfish act to be like, no, I'm not going to do this thing because I'm afraid what I'm going to experience, right? Then it becomes a you experience. And so that's what I encourage you to shift, is instead of coming from the what about me experience and all about me experience, what about how can I serve this person even if I'm afraid? That is where you get to go. So I hope that helps. And I think that's a super common question. That's how you start to overcome the fear, is you start approaching it from the place of service. How can I serve that one person who needs to hear me right now? And then say whatever it is that one person needs to hear from you right now. And then do it again, and then keep doing it again, and then the next day and the next day. And that's how you start to overcome your fear. Does lapis lazuli help? Yes, it does. I love that stone. Lapis lazuli. Also, and I'll just share, blue lace agate is also awesome. Turquoise. Basically all those pale blue stones, like lapis lazuli also helps, even though it's kind of like more of an indigo. But there are a lot of stones that will, how would I say, it's multi-purpose. Like lapis lazuli is a multi-purpose kind of stone. So it's great for throat chakra, third eye, crown, it's super great for that kind of stuff. Yes, ego comes from fear. Absolutely. It really does. Sherry's asking, is being more afraid an indicator that you are on target? Well, it means that you are connecting with a thing that you're scared of doing. And most often it's not that you're scared of really the act of being visible. It's what you're saying, what it means to you, right? Like, it's not really that you're truly afraid to be on camera and like people see you. It's what does that mean to you? What does that mean? That you're going to be seen by people that you don't know, seen by people that you do know. What could that mean for me, right? So it's more of an indication that you are on the right path. And then the piece that you get to do is actually jump into the fear, right? If you want to really be an empowered light worker, you jump into the fear. Okay, so I'm seeing here someone is sharing, I meditate 10 minutes every morning and every evening. Awesome. How do I speak my truth when it's so against my culture? I struggle. Okay, there's that notification again. I struggle with the cause I've always felt and know that I'm out there in my thoughts. Yeah, so that's part of it, right? So you're holding yourself back because of what you're assuming other people will say to you, as a result, right? So you're making it about you. You're making it about how am I going to feel, right? And although that's natural, that's not the way to be of service. The way to be of service around that is to turn that around, to shift that around, and come from a place of service rather than, well, what about me? What about my feelings? I don't want to get my feelings hurt, right? But someone who's in service, they are aware of that. It's not that they're not aware. And then they step in service anyway, you know? Because I remember like one of these times when I was first going live, I think now it might have been 5 years ago, the first like full on live that I did. And I remember thinking like I was nervous that, a certain ex was going to see me, or like my relatives were going to see me, my childhood friends, and all of whom do not really share the kind of the work that I do, right? Like they don't really resonate with the work that I do. And, and at that time I was really nervous about that. But, at the end of the day, who are you going to let call the shots? Your culture or you? I'm hoping you will choose yourself, right? Because if and when you choose you, it's not about what do these people think. It's about what do I think, right? And not from a place of like, oh, I'm afraid, right? But taking a stand from yourself. What is more important? For other people to dictate your path? Is it more important for other people to dictate your path? Or is it more important for you and your higher self to dictate your path? So that's a choice you get to make. This is a good question. What happens when you sell services and you know your worth, but clients say you're not worth that without taking it personally? Well, first of all, whenever anyone says that you're not worth that, first of all, they're not your ideal clients. Secondly, because your ideal client will be like, well, of course it makes sense, right? Of course I'm going to step in, right? So either there's a tweak that you get to make in your messaging so that you can be clearer, about who you're calling in. And then you also get to qualify them. Like that's something that I also do. You can have an application. I have an application for people to talk to my team, right? Because not everyone's a fit. Like everyone might be inspired and all, but like, do they have the commitment? Not everyone does, right? So, I work with those who are committed, who are committed to their purpose, who are connected to their purpose and their heart and their light, and who are committed to rising up in whatever that takes. So, it sounds to me like you get to tweak either your messaging, or also you get to be more discerning with your application process when they come in to speak with you. And then also you get to be more connected with the value of your offer as well. Because sometimes when people say, well, first of all, if they're actually saying you're not worth it, right? Like, I mean, they're just like simply not a good match. They're simply not your people, right? And that once you start doing it more and more and more, you don't take it as personally, because you're just looking for your ideal client. And if someone is saying things like you're not worth it, and they literally are okay with saying things like that to you, then those are not your people, right? So you can just literally like kind of put that in like a separate container and be like, okay, that's just one of those people who's not my people. And so that's where you can start not taking it personally, and also start getting better with refining your offer, and refining what you are creating, and refining how you are sharing about it, and also refining who gets to talk to you. So I hope that is helpful. Okay, I'm going to take a look at some more questions here. Yes, and Angelina is sharing, I tell the truth always now, and it's wonderful because it just works. You attract the people, clients, and it's okay. Let's see. It's okay to lose some family people. It's their journey. Absolutely. I mean, not everyone's going to love you, and you don't want everyone to love you, honestly. I mean, you really don't, because you're not for everyone and not everyone is for you. And if you just are saying, like, but I want to help everyone, that's your first problem. Because of course you want to help everyone. If you're really a light worker and you are here to do this work, you're going to want to help everyone. But if you say, and your messaging is, I want to help everyone, then you're literally helping no one. And you know why? Because it's confusing. You're too general, right? If you're like, I just want to help the world, then your ideal client is going to be like, okay, what does that mean for me? Do I fit somewhere in there? If you want to just help the world, like, do I fit there? So they're not going to know what you're talking about. Like if you just say you want to help everyone. So you get to be super specific. And that's how I help my private clients get into that and get into that nitty gritty. Okay. So these are awesome questions, everyone. Great questions. I love how you're really just engaging with your power and getting curious about how do I transform this and that. And that's super awesome. So congratulations on doing that, for being engaged with your power. And this recording, this will be recorded. This will be up there in my video section on Instagram and also on Facebook on the video section. And so make sure you check that out if you're just joining us now. And today's topic was 5 ways to empower your throat chakra. And I'm glad that you stuck with me even with Instagram being glitchy, because my Facebook is having no problem. So that's super interesting. That said, thanks for taking your time out, or your afternoon, or my afternoon, maybe morning or evening where you are. Thanks for being here. And if you are an empowered light worker who's already connected to your purpose, connected to your heart, is committed to your purpose and what you're here to create, and really be embodied in the next level of your power, because no matter where you're at, there's always a next level, right? It's always the empowered light worker knows they're a student at all times, right? And so this is super, super important. If that's you, and if you are an empowered light worker who's connected to your purpose and your heart, and you're ready for what's next, you're ready to be activated into your divine power codes and ready to be supported in a high way, and I invite you to DM me what your light worker purpose is, and we'll talk about what those next steps could look like for you. Okay, wonderful. Thank you for joining me. Have a wonderful rest of the week, everyone. Much love, light, and power to you.